I'm Kevin Naranjo. I'm our Wood Innovations Lead in our Washington office. I've been in this position now for probably about a month, and prior to that I was working as a detail in the office for about 8 months, and I am working in Wood Innovations for close to 2 years now. So I had a picture of our Wood Innovations team, but I clicked one slide too many and I lost that. But we're a small team. There's one of us in each region of the country. So we are the Wood Innovations is we manage the Wood Innovation grants for the Forest Service, but we also that includes trying to develop new markets for wood products, trying to find new markets for wood energy, and one of those is biochar. So I think Tom had said earlier that biochar was something that not a lot of people are aware of. If you'd have asked me 2 years ago what biochar was, I would have just looked at you with a blank stare. But I have a pretty good grasp now, and actually I think it's pretty neat. When I showed the picture of the United States, one of the things that we have been seeing in talking to our partners, and we work with a lot of different partners. We work with the different state forestry. We work with just universities. We work with industry, and a lot of our partners are starting to talk about biochar, but not all of them are that familiar with it. They know that it's a potential way to be able to help with some of their biomass issues, and we do have a lot of biomass issues on the landscape. So the Wood Innovations team. So we work with the national forests. Like I said, we work with state and private, and then we do a lot of work with the Forest Products Lab in the southern research stations. And so we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of information at our disposal to be able to try and disseminate information out to you all. So some of the programs that we work on. So again, it's a national network of wood and biomass specialists and our primary focus is on reducing hazardous fuels. And that's where the funding comes for our program, from the hazardous fuels. So we have a focus on wood products and mass timber. A primary piece of my portfolio is to focus on mass timber. We work on renewable wood energy, wood innovation. We have the Wood Innovation Grant Program, which I'm going to talk about as I go through this presentation. And we have a new program, the Community Wood Energy Community Wood Innovation Grant Program. And that program allows for the purchase of equipment. It can allow for wood energy equipment, and we've seen wood energy projects that also produce biochar as an outgrowth of wood energy. And in this case, it'll support innovative wood product facilities. And then we have the National Forest Products Week. So now I'm going to talk about biochar, forest, and biochar. And so when we talk about biochar, it's from woody biomass. I know that you can produce biochar from other, and the Forest Service does have a lot of grasslands, but we're primarily focused on woody biomass. One thing we don't want to see on the landscape is just piling up woody biomass and just either burning it. In the West, that's a large problem. There's a lot after we've harvested lands to improve the health and sustainability. We're left with either small diameter trees, or we're left with a lot of wood biomass. And if we don't have a market for it, if we don't have a way to be able to utilize it productively, it potentially goes up in flames, but it doesn't become biomass. We also have other parts of the country. So along the Appalachians and in the Northeast, we have a lot of the same issues, but with hardwoods. So as we harvest trees, we have a lot of trees that we don't have markets for, or have, and biomass is a potential that they also talk about in other parts. Well, just like we're in the eastern biomass, so it has I think people are starting to think about it. I think that the partners that we work with, they know it's out there, and I hope as we get through this week that we start to identify solutions and opportunities that we don't have to have this happen. So this wood innovations. So the Forest Service, we get wood innovations funding, which a good portion of that goes to our wood innovation grant program. Some of that we can use for discretionary spending on projects, and some of the funding that we use for will go towards now the new community wood energy program that we have. But since 2015, we've funded through our wood innovation grant programs 17 projects in 7 different regions of the country. So that's almost $3 million that we've awarded, and close to $3 million in leverage funds by our partners. And in a few minutes, I'm going to talk about some of the different types of projects that we have funded. But 17 projects in the course of that's 5 years, and we fund probably on average about 35 projects a year. So we're not a lot of our we don't fund a lot of biochar projects. Our program tends to be very competitive, but I would like to see that change, and I think that there is opportunity to be able to do that. Hopefully, as the program starts to mature, biochar does. So we've also funded with Wood Innovations funding through the Forest Products Lab. I know that they've been a very strong partner in working with the USBI. I think they funded several times. They funded close to $100,000 to help with education, technical assistance, strategy training. We also funded a study to the Council of Western State Foresters to do a market study. But I think that our relationship with USBI has been very positive, and it's something that, again, we would like to see that relationship continue to grow. So, some of the grants that we funded over the course of those 15 grants, we've funded several studies. So with the Wood Innovation Grant Program, what we really like to see are our projects. We like to see work on the ground, but we do fund some research, research that we know that it has that strong connection to partners, so that we'll know that will lead to good opportunity for our more wood being utilized. We want to be able to harvest more trees so that we can produce healthier forest. And in the case of biochar, right, that can help in harvesting smaller diameter trees, and then the waste that comes from when we chop the limbs off trees or take the tops, that the pieces that aren't taken away for saw timber. But we funded 2 studies through Dovetail Partners, and we have a current grant with Next Generation Woods. And I know all of these have partnered with, or partnering, or have partnered with the USBI. And the ultimate goal is to be able to identify new opportunities, new markets for biochar. So these are the types of things that we think can be important through the Wood Innovation Grant. But really, we'd like to see more projects. So a couple of examples of projects that we've seen that we think have been successful. In 2015, we funded Ag Energy Solutions. So they were trying to develop using gasification to produce biochar. They developed a mobile biochar system to be able to utilize wood, biomass that's coming off the national forest that didn't have any markets. But so their grant funded some of the engineering, funded their a market plan, and then funded some of the tests so that they could show that this would be a viable and productive way to utilize biochar. So they've been successful in generating a profit as a business. Part of that came through the studies they did in the grant. They've been selling biochar. They sell it mainly. They've been successful selling it to high value crops within the state of Washington and other areas in that region. So that's an example of one of our wood innovation grants that we saw that was successful with biochar. Another one which I like and I think has some potential. We funded 2 grants with the Nebraska Forest Service. They're part of the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, Nebraska. But they have a grant, so they have 2 active grants. The Great Plains Biochar Initiative, and that's to educate people within the state of Nebraska and Kansas about the value of biochar, the uses of biochar. That grant has recently been extended. I think they've had some issues with COVID-19 to be able to get out and engage with partners as they'd like to. In part of what we do in the Washington office is we state forest action plans are due for 2020 for all the different states. And I know that the state of Kansas, in theirs, one of their focuses for forest products to be able to utilize a lot of the biomass that they generate within the state is biochar. They're trying to find new opportunities and ways to be able to utilize biochar. And I think so. They partnered with Nebraska on the biochar initiative. The other grant that they have is the great. It's to figure out they're feeding biochar to livestock. Apparently, it reduces the amount of methane that because cows produce a lot of methane when they flatulate. So the grant is but so that you put biochar into the feedstock and it serves the purpose of reducing the methane, which I think is kind of neat. I'm hoping that grant can really, if they can be successful. They told me that part of they have to be able to do convince the FDA that this is actually something that can be of value, and that's part of the piece of their study too. But there's a lot of cows in the United States, so it could potentially open up some good opportunities for market. So when we think about wood innovation grants, those are the types of things that we look to fund. I think when Tom showed his presentation in the beginning, he was showing a lot of different uses for biochar in the United States. I didn't know there were that many. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of those different projects are opportunities our wood innovation grant can fund. We don't fund equipment, and I know oftentimes equipment can be an expensive piece for producing biochar, but we definitely can fund project work. We can fund that can help grow the use of biochar, ultimately to be able to utilize more wood on the landscape. And then I think Tom did talk about this. We've been with the U.S. Biochar Initiative. The Forest Service has been funding a char gas unit made by Airburner, and they did some studies in Oregon with the unit. And this is a small portable unit that will ideally you can take into the forest and you burn the biomass that you're not using as part of the harvest. So in the next several months in the southern region, I know the state of Florida, and we're looking at some other states, are going to be testing the piece of equipment for damage, either tornado damage or hurricane damage. Hurricanes are unfortunately tend to be a common occurrence in the southern states. So they're going to utilize it to see the value, being able to turn that wood into biochar. So hopefully those tests will be successful. I know that they were very excited about the opportunity to test the unit and hopefully find value in that. So I have this slide that this is my last slide, the future of wood innovations to stimulate biochar market. I left it like this because we in 2020 we had 5 proposals for biochar, but we only awarded one, and that was the grant for the study by Next Generation. We don't see a lot of good proposals related to biochar. We want to see real projects that we know are going to utilize wood on the ground, and we're very open to supporting even projects that aren't necessarily, if somebody's still doing testing like we did for the ag energy, they were still testing they had a device and they were still testing that. But what we want to see are projects that we know that are going to have work with partners, right? Whether it's industry partners, we want you to work with state partners, projects that give us confidence that they're going to be successful. And our grant program has become more competitive. We're starting to see a lot more other wood product projects, but that doesn't mean that we don't not want to support biochar. I know that biochar is a very nascent opportunity, but we see it as an opportunity that can definitely grow as that education of biochar grows. And I'm going to leave it to the experts to talk about the issues that the industry faces, markets versus being able to produce it. But I do think that there's a lot of opportunity for us within the Wood Innovation Grant Program to be able to help. So what I didn't put on here, and I'm going to put into the chat when I'm done, is I'll put a link to for the Wood Innovations Program. And I guess I failed to talk a little bit more about, so that program is the RFP for the Wood Innovations. It came out October of this year, and grant proposals are due in January 20th for the Wood Innovations, and the first week of February for the wood community wood energy grant program. The Wood Innovations will fund up to $250 but it requires a 1-to-1 match. The community wood energy will fund it'll fund the purchase of wood energy equipment, and that potentially can be used to produce heat energy, power, and with a byproduct of biochar. So we do have a couple of good opportunities. We do continue to work with our partners. Part of what our Wood Innovation team does is we connect with a lot of different people. So we try to connect opportunity, we try to connect ideas, we share information. So within your region, the Wood Innovation coordinators, it's really important that you work with them, because they can help connect you with maybe work we're doing in the different parts of the country. I'll be honest, everything I know about biochar, I've learned from numerous discussions with Jim Archuleta, who is our biochar guru for the Wood Innovations team. Jim, I had to give you a shout out here. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end my presentation.